Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Some people just don't know how to be good neighbors. In the first story, our OP's neighbor wanted him to work in her yard, and if he refused, he should give her money so that she could pay someone else for the work. Weird, isn't it? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Mow my lawn or give me money. This is more my dad's story than mine. My dad was mowing our lawn when he spotted an elderly neighbor, Ian, that he knows who's out for a walk. They had a bit of a chat, and before he left, Ian made a joking comment of, "Can you do my lawn when you're done here?" Now my dad gets along very well with Ian and knows that he doesn't have much of a lawn to speak of, more like a strip of grass by the sidewalk, and that he struggled to mow it. So to be nice, my dad brings his lawnmower to Ian's house and mows his lawn for him. Ian is extremely grateful, offers my dad some money, which he turns down, and then offers him a glass of lemonade. That's where the story should have ended. Just a cute story about neighbors being nice. But Ian lives next to a choosing beggar, CB. CB isn't elderly, disabled, or in any other way incapable of mowing her own lawn. She just doesn't like doing it. She saw my dad mowing Ian's lawn and saw him turning down money, and she decided that she was entitled to the same thing. She stormed outside and impatiently huffed while Dad and Ian drank lemonade and chatted. When my dad started packing up his lawnmower and getting ready to go, she stomped over and whined, "What about me?" Dad looks at her in confusion and asks what she means. She responds with, "Aren't you going to mow my lawn too?" My dad declines since A, she's able to mow her own lawn, B, she has a big lawn, and C, he has other things he needs to do. When Dad turns down CB, she has the audacity to say, "Well, you should at least give me $15 so I can pay one of the local kids to mow the lawn if you won't do it yourself." My dad didn't even bother arguing with her. He just packed up and left with her throwing a tantrum as he went. He and Ian are still good friends. Dad'll show up when he sees Ian's patch of grass getting a bit long and mow it for him, and Ian drops off jars of jams and chutneys that he makes himself. CB huffs every time she sees Dad and still makes comments about how he should be mowing her lawn too. Your dad's missing an opportunity to get the rest of the neighborhood to band together while CB is watching and do something like help Ian put in some plants or a water feature. And our second story. Woman claims that employees didn't do the work to the boss. So, little backstory. I was an apprentice electrician a while back, and through my work met other companies. I got talking to this guy, Chris, who owned an air conditioner installation and maintenance business. He often had people try and scam him, like all construction companies do, but this one stood out. Characters: Chris, boss; Nolan, site manager; Bob, worker 1; Ross, worker 2; Karen, K. So Chris was working on a major renovation to a small office building where pretty much everything would be new except for brick walls and frame. Being a small business and having good workers, Chris would only ever have to brief them on what needed to be done and answer any questions. This allowed Chris to go do quotes and check out other jobs while Bob and Ross did all the hard work. Towards the end of the build, Bob and Ross were fixing up the final touches on the aircon unit while Chris was at a funeral, but was popping in later to check their progress. I can't remember the exact way Chris explained it, but the air conditioner was ducted and the vents weren't very visible to the untrained eye. You wouldn't even notice it. Well, the roof was finished, hiding the ducting, and everything on Bob and Ross' side was completed and only needed the electrician to hook up the power. In walks entitled Karen. Karen was the manager for the company that was moving into the office and liked to think she was the queen of the work site. She would constantly message Nolan over text and email to complain and argue about the work that had been done, and being a Karen, she knew more than the professionals. The kicker: she wasn't even permitted on site. K. How could the work be done? There's no vents. Bob. Actually, there... K. Ew, what's that horrible smell? You guys have stunk up the place. Ross. That's the smell of the paint. K. No, one of you must have done something in here. Paint doesn't smell like that. There was more to this conversation, but to save time, Karen just kept complaining and claiming that Bob and Ross did no work. Things started to get heated when she was told that they couldn't even turn it on because the electrician hadn't had the chance to connect the power. Karen started screaming at them, saying things like she wouldn't pay them, and no one would hire them, and that she'd have their business license taken away. Right in the middle of her tirade, Chris walks in, still in his suit from the funeral. K. Ah, Nolan, finally. It's a good time. These a-holes are trying to leave after they wrecked the place. A little curious, Chris doesn't correct her. Chris, wait, what do you mean? What happened? K. These two refused to do the work, sprayed fumes in here probably to get high, and when I told them that they did no work, they told me to F off. TBH, I don't know why you would hire a bunch of scummy con men like these. I don't even think they have their licenses for air conditioning. Chris, you stupid bee. I know for a fact that's not true because I helped them do the work and I helped them install the unit. K. Don't try and lie, Nolan. You're just covering up for them because they're your friends. Chris. They may be my friends, but I'm their boss. And I'm not Nolan, you stupid bee. But he did mention you. You're not allowed on this site and are in breach of contract. Get the F out before I call your boss. Karen was just shocked and left in a huff, clearly shocked that someone would speak to her like that. Chris then called up Nolan straight away and explained the situation and also apologized for talking like that to a client. Nolan told him not to worry and he'd sort it out. The week Chris went to the site because the power was back up and he needed to test the units. At the site, he runs into Nolan, who told him that he called the owner of the company moving in and told them that they were in breach of contract, entering a site without permission, and that he was in his legal right to stop work and demand for the full pay for the work and he won't finish it. The owner started to get worried and started asking questions. Nolan explained about Karen and how he had to deal with constant harassment and was over it. After a few apologies and a promise of a beer to make up for it, the owner assured Nolan that Karen wouldn't be allowed back and if she showed up to call him so he could fire her. Chris was happy to hear it worked out, but was ecstatic that Nolan asked him to join him for a few drinks after the working day. Karen never returned. And our last story. Months of paid vacation? I'll take it. This happened in Germany, so the laws are different to other countries, especially to the USA. I was working for a family-owned business, about 40 employees, a couple years ago. My time there wasn't the best because I had huge problems with my boss's younger brother. He was on early pension and officially just working on a small part-time contract, while in reality working full-time with getting most of his salary out of pocket. That I was hired meant for him that he just worked about half the hours he worked before, and having a huge pay cut because of me pissed him off, as you can imagine. He talked bad about me behind my back all the time and tried to get me fired. Dealing with him was a pain in the butt, but I didn't have to deal with him often. My coworkers were nice and the pay was good, so I didn't care about finding another job despite my relationship with my boss and his wife got worse over time. My boss even came with me to 2 deliveries to customers because his brother probably told him I would waste time during the deliveries. At one day, I had to do a delivery with my boss's wife's car because the company car I normally use was at the inspection at that day, and the timing couldn't have been worse. I scratched the fender of her car on a wall when I tried to get out of the parking spot. The scratch was barely noticeable, but I immediately reported it to one of my coworkers, so no one can say that I tried to put it under the rug. I did the delivery, and when I came back, my boss's wife already waited for me. She went completely crazy, screamed at me for ruining her car without inspecting the damage before, and said that she will take the money for the repair from my paycheck. I told her that I won't pay for anything because the insurance will pay for it anyway. And that's what let her snap, and she slapped me in the face. I immediately turned around, grabbed my stuff, clocked out, and went to the doctor to get a sick note because of mental stress, which I threw into the company's mailbox in the evening. 2 days later, I got a termination letter in the mail and had to laugh while reading just the first sentence. We are terminating your work contract immediately, or if this isn't applicable, within the legal 30 days. To people who aren't familiar with German workers' law, it's illegal to terminate a contract immediately and within the legal period of time in the same termination letter. You can do one or another, but not do both at the same time. So I went to the government office to apply for unemployment and hired a lawyer to sue my boss for illegal termination. Over 2.5 months went by until I got a court date, and my boss was really PO'd when the judge explained to him that the termination was illegal and that he had to pay me for the last 2.5 months. But the illegal termination wasn't the only mistake he made. The judge gave me two options. I can accept an immediate termination on that day and leave without compensation, or I can have a 2-month salary compensation, but I have to work another month for the company. My boss laughed and said that I'm too scared to go back to work and that it makes him happy that I leave the court unemployed. He didn't look that happy anymore when I asked him, "Why should I be scared? Do you want to beat me like your wife did?" So I took option B and went to work the next morning. My boss's brother already waited for me to hand me the termination letter and made comments about how difficult the next 30 days would be for me. I checked the termination letter, and after I've seen that everything was right, I just said that I'm not feeling well, turned around, went to my doctor to get another 30-day sick note because of burnout. So in the end, I had a 3.5-month vacation with full pay, 2-month salary compensation, and he had to pay for my lawyer too, because he lost at court. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.